The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Jimmy Song, Bitcoin developer.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
Tone Vase from Liberty Life Trail. Gotta be faster.
Hey everyone, sorry. No, I was having like technical issues.
It's that computer, what you call a computer. Let's go to Jeffrey Jones from the Bitcoin News Show.
Hello all, welcome to the show. Happy to have you.
It's that responsiveness on the mouse clicking. You just got to be click, click, click. And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Antbleed. A website called Antbleed.com launched this week, warning of a backdoor in Bitmain's firmware that could be used to remotely shut off the miner. As the realization spread that this backdoor could affect 70% of Bitcoin mining, panic spread throughout the Bitcoin community, demanding firmware updates and other fixes to remove this backdoor. Bitmain announced that the backdoor was a feature to shut down the miners in case they were stolen. Jimmy Song, your thoughts on this dramatic development?
Yeah, so I did take a look at their open source code, which is odd, right? If they were intending it to be a backdoor that they were going to exploit, to have the code actually be open source would be kind of against the point. I read through the code. It's extremely obvious what's going on. There's a variable called stop mining. There's a log entry that says stop mining, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation. Extremely obvious. Like, to anybody that reads code, it's very easy to find it. The shocker is that this code has been around for 6 months and it's just getting publicity now, which is kind of strange to me. Anyway, my take on this is I'm going to use Hanlon's razor, never attribute to malice that which can be explained by incompetence. I believe this was a little bit of incompetence there. They just forgot to delete this code or never finished the feature or whatever. I don't think this affects anything. It's a lot like people like during an iPhone shortage griping about some feature of iPhones. Right now, mining equipment is extremely valuable. It's very profitable. Miners are like desperate for this equipment, and they already sort of trust Bitmain already. Those that don't like Bitmain already, they're gonna continue hating Bitmain anyway. And so really it only affects potential buyers. But because of the shortage of mining equipment, they can't really afford to be picky. So I don't think it affects anything. I mean, it's kind of a terrible thing to have something remotely shut down. I haven't heard of anybody actually getting shut down this way. And they've already patched the code in their open source repo. So, I mean, to me, it's just sort of a,
Is it possible that this is just some of the future getting to us early? Will all cars come with this feature? Do you think that any large piece of electronics that's $5,000, $10,000, maybe $50,000 should come with a shut-off switch? Is this not unreasonable, Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and but I'll point out, like, pretty much every electronics thing that you buy, you have to trust the manufacturer to a large degree, because you have no idea what firmware is loaded on there. You have no idea what chips are in there that can record your stuff, or like do a phone home signal or whatever. So that's just sort of part and parcel of any hardware, is that unless you have microscopes and you can examine every circuit in there, you have to trust somebody, and this is not a problem that's easily solvable. Yeah, so I mean, it's an unfortunate reality, but one that we have to live with for now.
You gotta trust somebody. I'd just like to thank our 108 live viewers. If everyone could give us a thumbs up and a share, that would help us out. Let's go to Tone Vase.
Hey Jimmy, why don't you go unmuted, because I have a couple of questions for you since you brought it up. Hey, so I mean, I've never been a miner, and the last thing I ever want to do is look at code. That's what I tell people. Like, I studied, I used to code, I have a engineering, but I hated code. Anytime on my Wall Street job, my bosses got on me to be a better developer, I just left that job for another job. So the code was open source, and this could have been discovered immediately, but you're saying no one really cared to look. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, there was an issue open in that repo that said, "Hey, why is this pinging this weird URL? Why is it phoning home?" Nobody really answered it.
When was that? When was that posted? When was it posted?
I can let's see.
No, ballpark. Like how long?
It was 1 year, right, Jimmy?
What's that?
It was 1 year, right, Jimmy?
Yeah, it says here September 19th, 2016. So it was about 8 months ago, something like that. I can here. Let me post the. Yeah,
you have to assume that they're going to be watching the ports coming off of this machine, and they're going to see it pinging things. It just doesn't seem like anyone stepped in to immediately block it. Where they didn't know what it was doing, but they didn't necessarily block it right away either.
Yeah, I mean, anyone reading the code in any depth at all would have figured it out. It's because it said stop mining. That's the name of the variable, right? And if it's a Boolean, if it's true, it literally stops mining. So it's very easy to see. There's nothing really like nefarious about it in that sense. But
surely,
yeah, I mean, it was there.
2020 hindsight, we could search for stop mining next time.
Yeah, or any log entries that say stop mining. Yeah.
Right. Well, in that case, I actually thought that this stuff was closed source. I mean, that's why another reason why I like to do the show, like catch up on the news and also learn new stuff. So thanks for that info, Jimmy. So my view on it is, I'm glad that people didn't panic and sold Bitcoin, the old coin. Here's how I look at these things, right? Bitcoin is so far head and shoulders above all of these other alternatives, from the development, from the user base, from security, on all aspects. And if something like this is going unnoticed in Bitcoin for 9 months, this gives me even more confidence that Bitcoin will be the one and only blockchain for value transfer in the future. Like incidents like this give me more and more confidence of Bitcoin than even considering alternatives. So that's one thing. The other thing, it again adds more clarity as to why Roger Ver and Jihan Wu were so certain that they can get Bitcoin unlimited as the dominant chain. And with each of these, I mean, the reason why it was named Antbleed, people are like, well, why is it called Antbleed? Well, because it's like another stab at Bitmain and their ant miners. So again, it's another shot across the bow towards them showing the world that they're not going to be able to control, because people are being educated and people are starting to look at, they're starting to turn over every rock and in order to their Bitmain. Like when Bitmain was, ending with the Bitcoin community, no one really looked into them. No one looked into, their past. No one analyzed every tweet an employee sent. No one, through all of these Chinese chats, looking to translate every syllable. Now that they're pissing off the majority of the Bitcoin community, people are fighting back, and the best way they can fight back is like what WikiLeaks does. Now, people still seem to attack the messenger. I mean, if you're a BU supporter, you're going to attack the messenger. It was always like, oh, blame Dragon's Den for releasing the information. You gotta be shitting me, right? Like, it's Dragon Den's fault for building a website because publications didn't feel like publishing the article to break the news because it was a little speculatory. complaining, oh, how come it didn't get released right away? How come some people knew ahead of time? Information needed to be checked, the information needed to be verified, and it needed to be presented in a, in a real manner, just like Gregory Maxwell thought about the problem of ASIC boost and then told it to the world with a solution. Same thing here. It wasn't just randomly thrown out there. It was thrown out there with a solution that can remove this feature. And these are the kinds of things responsible people do in order not to have the markets panic. This is the opposite of what Bitcoin Unlimited does, releases code with memory leaks and no testing. So this is, I don't think this is as much of a positive as ASIC boost was, but this is definitely not a negative. And it only shows you that, there are still some smart, diligent people in Bitcoin trying to, shed light on shady practices.
Jeffrey Jones, your thoughts on Antbleed?
Well, it seems there really is never a dull moment in crypto, folks. This is yet another fun hashtag that we can all play around with, from ASIC boost to Antbleed. But it just kind of shows to me, the way I see it at this point, is that it really is more incompetence and negligence on Bitmain's part than malice, right? I have to kind of agree with Jimmy on that. Where if it was actually planned, it wouldn't have been such in plain sight, right? Like the code says, the variable name. But still, again, we expect more from Bitmain. We expect more from their security audits. We expect more from the company itself. And and as to Tone's point, people have to understand that. Look, yes, it was released on a domain, Antbleed.com with a domain, but it wasn't just news. They have released a solution with it. That's really important to remember. They didn't just say, hey, they didn't just cry wolf. Guess what? Here's how to fix it too. And then somebody released some code right immediately on Twitter, like how to actually test to see if your miner will go offline. Here, just run this script real quick and to test, and yep, it shut off your miner. All right. So this is a real deal, and this is diligent people doing their thing. And remember, no one actually got shut down. This is another temporary kind of crazy thing in Bitcoin. Of course, everybody's going to blow it up and blow up the, Bitcoin's died enough times as it is, right? So of course, this is going to be something else that they're going to blow up and point to and say, man, see, there it goes, it's dead. And but hey, it definitely freaked me out. Obviously, right away when I first heard about the news, 70% of the hash rate. Come on, I mean, my God, that was a little bit. I was a little taken back. That was a little scary. But as we see, nobody got shut down. Everybody's patched. Everything is fine. So, that's good. We're all good. There's nothing really to worry about. But, again, Bitcoin doesn't exist in a vacuum. As Tone said, this kind of stuff is going to be discovered, and it's going to be a great example of Bitcoin's resilience, Bitcoin's anti-fragility. You cannot shut this thing down, and you cannot control this thing, no matter how much you try, no matter if you're Jihan or what. You cannot control this stuff. And this is just great news. I see it as a positive as well, net positive.
It does seem like the work of Bitcoin Core, releasing a fix, describing the code, acting responsibly. You just hate to see that. Exit question: should all Bitcoin miners be open source? Is this even possible without exposing, for lack of a better word, their secret sauce? Jimmy Song.
Yeah, so I did a deep dive on sort of miner manufacturing recently in an article that I wrote a couple of, I think it was last week. Anyway, you could try to open source chip design, but that's not really done. And the reason why is because chip design is hugely profitable. It's highly patented. These are some of the strongest patents that you can own, is chip design patents, because if you copy it, courts will come after you and they will enforce these patents. There's an extremely high barrier to entry. Just like chip design to tape out, which is at which point you can actually print the chips. That's about $20 million for an ASIC. Or like depending on how many engineers you hire. I happen to have some friends in this industry. They say it's around $600,000 per engineer per year, which is an insane amount, because not only do you have to pay their salaries, you have to get them all these tools that are very, very expensive. So trying to do that from an open source perspective, I really don't think it's going to happen. And you got to remember, this is extremely easy to get wrong. Like if you make a design flaw, if if you do something that screws up the chip, like your whole batch is ruined. And there's a reason why there's so many bankrupt mining companies, right? Remember Butterfly Labs, Cointerra, TNC Miners, Spondoolies Tech, all in the graveyard of mining companies. There's a reason for that. It's extremely hard to do, and in a sense, like Bitmain, you got to give props to Bitmain. They figured out this formula, and they have some really good chip designers. They have some great relationships with the chip fabs. They know how to do the manufacturing. They've got the PCB board and everything else designed correctly. That's really hard to do. I would love to see more competition. And I love the fact that Canaan, they're trying to ramp up their production and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I really don't see an open source, version of anything like this without somebody pouring in like $100 million for free.
That's too bad. I still think some of those mining companies are cool, and I am waiting for my Butterfly Labs in the mail. Tone Vase.
I mean, I'm gonna have to second Jimmy here. He's a bigger expert at this than I am. I don't have the expertise to answer the question. It'd be nice to see some more competition, obviously. Maybe it would be nice for Bitfury to sell more of their chips, ramp up their manufacturing. And but they're not in China. It probably costs them more. And China is doing better. It kind of sucks that so many. We'll get the cloud mining in our next story, I think, or the third story. So I'll continue the discussion there. But it kind of sucks when you have like a cloud miner, like maybe BitClub, and I think like BitClub started buying some chips from Bitfury, but I don't know if they actually did or not. I know they were going to, but if they never did, then they have a pretty big operation, and it's all Bitmain's chips. And now you have a cloud miner that basically will, if Jihan and Bitmain tells this cloud miner to jump, they're just going to say how high, because Bitmain becomes in full control. You can just turn off your chips, and then BitClub becomes a Ponzi scheme immediately. They have no choice but to obey whatever Jihan says. And that is something I worry about. And I don't know I don't have a solution for this problem, but I think that's a problem. I think it's less of a problem for an individual miner, because an individual miner can say, and he may choose, to kind of do something with his machine. But when you have an entire cloud mining operation depending on it, and they're basically responsible for whether they are or aren't a Ponzi. And it's debatable if BitClub is already a Ponzi, but if they're not a Ponzi, they would become one if someone has the power to tell them what to do, which is an unfortunate situation. And I don't know how we can alleviate this in the future. I don't have a solution for it.
I can give you a solution to the Bitcoin mining centralization problem in just 7 letters. AMD, Intel, Jeffrey Jones.
That'd be nice.
Well, yeah, I mean, I really wish that everything could be open sourced. I wish that all the miners could be open source, all the software could be open source, and then they could maybe just, compete at the fab level or something. I mean, I just wish that, that could happen. But unfortunately, we're not in an era yet where we have trusted hardware, right? This is the kind of stuff that Bitcoin is going to usher in. Much more trusted hardware and stuff, because we're going to need it when money is on the line, And I really wish there was more competition. But as Jimmy said, I mean, right now Bitmain's got it kind of figured out the most. But as Thomas, you pointed out, I mean, this is not going to be like this forever. There's just too much money, and we're just little small. It's a small little $20 billion network. So of course, there's going to be some centralization in the parts that we're going to be always centralized the most, which is chip fab manufacturing. And so it's only a temporary problem, because when bigger players start seeing this and bigger players start getting in the game, they're going to want a piece of pie. Bitmain is making extremely profitable miners right now. Like they have their markup is like what, I don't know if you know, Jimmy, but it's got to be like 200%. I mean, they're really making currently a lot of profit on their miners, and so other competition.
To build a material for a $1,200 miner, just so you know.
Yep. Yeah, and so they're going to have competition step in at some point. And so again, this is just another probably overblown thing for Bitcoin that will just be a temporary problem that we'll just solve very soon in the next few years as everybody in the world pretty much jumps into Bitcoin.
It's an excellent point, Jeff, that trusted hardware, improving your personal security, all of these things have been suggested and talked about for years, but it's something like Bitcoin that's actually going to force us to do it. We're going to need to store our private keys into that trusted hardware section. We're going to need encryption. We're going to need no one watching our computers because they could steal our money. It's much more important than our photos or our emails ever were. Let's move on to the next issue. Issue 2. Bitcoin and Ethereum, all-time highs. Perhaps caused by the global economic uncertainty, the second-place finish of Marine Le Pen, the election of Donald Trump, or plain old Brexit, the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum continue to rise, unaffected by even the wildest scaling drama. Tone Vase, is this it? Is Bitcoin and perhaps Ethereum about to begin a parabolic rise?
Well, Ethereum has been in an exponential rise for a little while now. I mean, I personally think that altcoins are in a bubble. All altcoins plus the ICOs. I think they're all in a massive bubble. And leading that bubble, because it does have it's getting to be a pretty big market cap. How high can Ethereum go? No, nobody does. These things always last longer than people expect, and they always collapse at the worst possible time and faster than people expect. Okay, so that we talked about earlier, people like in the traditional markets like to say, well, the market can stay irrational longer than most people stay liquid. Now in the crypto space, it's not very easy to short these things, and you have to be crazy to short them. So yeah, it will definitely stay irrational longer than it will stay liquid. In our personal case, because everyone on this show has always been anti-Ethereum because we saw it for what it was, the term that I want to start using is a market like Ethereum will stay irrational perhaps longer than many of us on the World Crypto Network can stay sane in dealing with it. That's kind of my view on it. I mean, to me, Ethereum was always an illegal sale of a security before the security even existed. I was always against Ethereum from the pre-sale. I was against Ethereum at the launch a year later. And I still think Ethereum is made the argument on one of these shows here on the World Crypto Network. I made the argument that Ethereum was actually worse than OneCoin. And I'm not going to elaborate on that here. But when it's all said and done and Ethereum completely implodes, because it is a perpetual motion machine, which when it goes proof of stake, and it'll probably fork again. And it's basically a platform for anyone to scam unqualified investors with their ICOs. Well, like everything is bad. Of all the bad things people used to say about Bitcoin, Ethereum is all that times 2 or times 10. Now, of course, those bad things ended up being a good thing for Bitcoin. I don't think good thing for Ethereum. And as far as that specific article from TechCrunch is concerned, it was clearly written by someone who doesn't understand crypto all that well. And he was just like throwing out every little, thing he's ever heard of and try to come up with a reason. To me, it kind of reads like a CC article, like the stock market is up a few points and they have to come up with a reason why. And if the stock market was down a few points, that would probably also be the same reason why. It was just basically, the article was kind of useless. Yeah, that's about it. And yeah, Ethereum could go higher, but it's gonna end poorly. It's gonna end, Ethereum itself will end kind of like the DAO ended, because it's being programmed by pretty much the same people. It's pretty much the same thinking that put it all together. Yeah, you can get rich if you get out on time, but you got to remember, like, most people don't get out on time, and most people get hurt really, really badly. The only question that would remain is, when the altcoin bubble pops, is all the money going to get transferred to Bitcoin, or is the altcoin bubble going to pop because all of crypto space would take a hit, and then Bitcoin would only fall 25 to 30%, while the altcoins fall 90 to 95%? And Bitcoin has fallen in price 75 to 90% 3 times. So this would be totally normal for all of these for the altcoin bubble to fall 90%. The only thing is, like, will it cause a Bitcoin bubble as it crashes? Or will Bitcoin also take a hit, but it'll be a much smaller hit because of Bitcoin's foundation?
Tone, what would you say to the idea that Ethereum is kind of like the Microsoft, bank, IBM version of Bitcoin? It's this year's blockchain. It's this year, or a separate blockchain, whatever, distributed ledger tech. Would you say that this is something they can get behind because they don't want to get behind Bitcoin?
They're already getting behind it with banks signing up for it, but I was just notified today that JP Morgan has left R3. Maybe that should be my news story of the week. I haven't fact checked the news, but someone on LinkedIn told me about it this morning. And so banks have realized that R3 is totally useless. And but they convinced the banks that they need a blockchain department. So now they're moving on to the next stupid idea, which is Ethereum, and they'll leave that one. It's nuts. I mean, these banks have really, really smart developers. They really, really, I've worked with some of these developers, some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. When they get down to the bottom of it, and they'll know they'll know they're looking at garbage. It's just, take a look at it.
Jeffrey Jones, your thoughts on the all-time highs?
Well, we're getting all-time highs on all sorts of things right now. Really, I see this as kind of a bit of a short-term bubble, but all these coins are going to go. I mean, this whole crypto market, right, is going to go. It's going to rise. It's going to get higher and higher in the next couple of years. I mean, when you look at 2020, I mean, is Litecoin going to be worth more than it is now? Yes. Is Bitcoin going to be worth more than it is now? Yes. Is Ethereum? Probably. I mean, you look at these coins right now at this point. I see a few of these coins sticking around for a couple of years, and they're going to basically kind of piggyback off of Bitcoin, and they're going to create this huge network. Because remember, all these ICOs are you have to buy them with Bitcoin. And it's providing it's providing another use case for Bitcoin. So I see a few of these coins sticking around for a couple of years. Beyond that, it's anybody's guess. But these coins are going to rise with Bitcoin. So I'm starting to think that Ethereum could be the KYC coin or the corporate coin. Because as Tone said, banks are liking it. And there's more money being poured into it. And really, the developers have been captivated. There's all these developers that have been captivated by Ethereum, kind of like how they saw Facebook in the early days, like this ability to just affect change at this huge level. And so, there's no apps yet. We don't see anything useful yet from Ethereum except for facilitating these ICOs. But because of these ICOs, I mean, we're getting ICOs that are going $300 million, selling out $300 million in 10 minutes. I mean, that's crazy. Of course, that's a bit of a bubble, right? I mean, that's not sustainable forever, and everybody can't do it.
Wait, which one? Are you talking about the Geonosis one?
Yeah.
They only sell like 12 million, right? Every time I hear that name, I keep.
You see what I'm saying, though, right? You see, these people are doing millions and millions of dollars in 10 minutes, right? And so people are going to see this. They're going to see this gold being mined, and they're going to go try to get the gold, right? So the ICOs are going to be around probably for this year, but this is not sustainable. This is not sustainable. What'd you say, Tom?
But this is why that. How do you pronounce that? Is it Geonosis? How do you pronounce?
I think
that?
It's Gnosis, actually, like Gnosis. Like
KNO. Every time I see that, I keep thinking of like the Star Wars and those bug planet. Maybe that's where they got the idea. But you know, this is why they're a scam, because they only sold 12 million because they only sold 5%, but they valued the entire thing. So they get to sit on, you know, the other 290 million, which they obviously can't sell. I mean, this is ridiculous. And this is why they can only sell these things to, you know, people at their computers that don't know anything about investing.
Right, but remember, there are going to solve. There's so many of these coins. You know, there's only going to be a few that survive, right? But right now we're in this ICO kind of bubble where everybody is trying to create an ICO, and those are going to continue selling out for a little while. But you know, and they're all going to be built over Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. Now, I don't know if you guys heard, but Ethereum Classic is now wanting to get into the ICO business. They're just they just released a couple tweets about trying to release some ICOs over them because they see all the money that Ethereum's making.
No,
Ethereum Classic wants to get on it.
Yeah, by the way, I can't wait for some of these ICOs that have already launched to say, well, for diversification reasons, we are going to launch again on Ethereum Classic this time. So Gnosis can actually do this again on Ethereum Classic and double their value.
So there's that, right? So there's that, but like I said, I don't see this crazy thing called altcoins going away anytime soon. They're going to continue doing interesting things, and remember, you know, in anything that's super interesting, like for example, privacy, right? These privacy focused coins, that's going to come to Bitcoin. You know, that's going to definitely be tried out on Litecoin and then eventually come to Bitcoin. So these altcoins will continue experimenting, and that's great. We really need them too. But in the end, you know, I mean, I don't want to call them test nets, but come on, right? Everything is traded into Bitcoin. Litecoin makes an amazing test net. You know, this is absolutely great watching SegWit get activated on Litecoin. I'm really excited about that, and then I'm excited about Lightning Network coming to it, and it's going to be great. So, you know, I don't see these altcoins going anywhere soon. These top tier altcoins are going to be here for a couple of years as they piggyback off of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is going nowhere. And right now, it is the markets are getting insane. The OTC markets are 10x at least what's going on with these exchanges. I hear from people in France, people in Zimbabwe. You know, Adam Meister just did a show about these people, and they're telling us that there is a shortage. There is a Bitcoin shortage. People cannot get enough of Bitcoin right now, and this is going to be how it is going to be for the next couple of years until the technology can catch up to the demand, because the demand is about to outpace the technology, and it's going to be a great thing.
Jimmy Song, do we have a Bitcoin shortage and an all-time high?
Yeah, so as you guys might know, this company that I work for, Antbleed over here. So house rules. I don't really want people to know how much like how many Bitcoins I have at work and stuff like that. So I've been trying to open an account at Gemini, right? Like they're a competitor, but if I want to do any transactions in Bitcoin, I'm gonna have to open an account there. I started the process like a month ago. And they gave me an email, said, well, you know, you should be confirmed within 3 days. And we try to do most of it in the first 24 hours. They still have not confirmed me. And I found out recently that this is because there's such a huge number of people trying to come into Gemini right now that they have a huge backlog of users that are trying to get in. And they can't process these fast enough. Right, like, and they have very strict KYC requirements or whatever. So they have a lot of paperwork that needs to be validated and all that stuff. So that to me is either a sign of incompetence or a sign of huge demand. I tend to think that it's the latter. There's a huge influx of users. That's a rise in price right now. And Gemini obviously trades Ethereum as well. And I can't really comment on Ethereum intelligently because I don't really know their code base very well, and I haven't studied it very much. But you know, the signs seem like there's a lot of demand coming in. There's a lot of new users coming in. There's maybe a lot of institutional investors that are coming in, and that is probably what's causing the rise in price.
Let's move on to the exit question. Tone Vase, will Ethereum continue to keep pace with Bitcoin? Does a rising tide lift all boats? Still muted and disappeared. Let's go to Jeffrey Jones while we see if we can get Tone back.
It's like, look, I mean, people are looking for a place to put their wealth, man. People are looking for a place to put their money. We have financial chaos happening all over the world. The debt is insane. We have negative interest rates, right? We have countries like Venezuela and situations like down there, just absolutely terrible. We have the elimination of cash. We have all of this crazy stuff, and we need to put our wealth somewhere. So there is going to be an increased demand for these altcoins and for Bitcoin, and they're all going to rise together, and it's going to be a free market. So the ones that are actually doing something good are the ones that's going to stick around. If Ethereum doesn't hold up in the market, if people think that the market thinks that Ethereum only does ICO scams and that's all it's good for, then eventually it'll piddle out. But if you can do other things with it and other apps come out, well then it'll have value. But the important thing to remember is that we need to put our money somewhere, and there's going to be increased demand. So I don't see, things like, Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin, I don't see their prices going down. If you ask me what they're going to be in 2 years, they're all going to be higher.
Jimmy Song, does a rising tide lift all boats?
Short answer is yes. It seems to be a pattern. Whenever Bitcoin rises in price, all the other alts also rise in price. But as Tone mentioned earlier, when Bitcoin falls, let's face it, we're going to have ups and downs in the future. And coins from like 3 years ago, anyone remember Prime Coin or Frey Coin or Terra Coin or all these coins that nobody remembers anymore? Well, they were sort of considered the same as a lot of these coins today. So I mean, Litecoin stuck around for a good reason. They're the first one with script and things like that. Who knows what will happen? I don't claim to know the future, but I have seen this pattern before, and I believe most of these alts, a lot of them will probably be gone in a couple of years. The half-life of altcoins is generally fairly short, but there are some that survive, and the ones that survive actually have use. So,
Litecoin will rise to $50 as soon as it is posted on Mt. Gox with a new Midas trade engine. Let's see, you bounced off and on twice. Tone Vase, are you with us? I don't think so. Looks like some kind of... I don't
know.
You don't know. All right, I think you can hear us.
Can you guys hear me? I just got back on.
Will Ethereum
let's see.
To keep pace with Bitcoin? All right, Tone Vase may or may not be with us. We're going to go to the exit question? No. All right.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Wait. I'm back.
All right. Will Ethereum continue to keep pace with Bitcoin? Does a rising tide lift all boats?
Okay. Well, I think Ethereum for the short term may keep pace with Bitcoin, but I don't think a rising tide lifts all boats because lately the correlation has been, all right, I know I lost video just now because my app crashed, but can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can still hear you. It's an impressive Microsoft product.
I know. And can you guys see me or no?
Yes, we can see you, but we like talking about it. It gets so meta.
Anyway, so lately I've seen an inverse correlation. When Bitcoin would go down, things like Ethereum and Dash would go up. But Litecoin has been fairly correlated with Bitcoin because they both pretty much depend on SegWit. And at the moment, the tide is kind of lifting all boats, but I don't think that's going to last. Ethereum can go up faster than Bitcoin for the short term. Ethereum will 8% correction. I mean, it's just the way markets work. And Ethereum has got infinitely more problems than Bitcoin does, even though we all know of Bitcoin problems. So I don't expect it to keep pace with Bitcoin for very long. So that's pretty much it. I'll leave it for the exit question.
I also think it's worth recounting a story from the Great Depression. Someone once said, "How did you go broke, Mr. Rockefeller?" And he was like, "At first, slowly, and then all at once." Moving on to issue 3. Issue 3, Bitcoin.com. Cloud mining. Pivoting to avoid the Bitcoin Unlimited project crashing down around him. Roger Ver and Bitcoin.com have begun offering cloud mining. Despite Roger's formerly held public views against both investing in Bitcoin mining and investing in Bitcoin cloud mining, has Bitcoin.com left no sense of decency, or are they just building out the site in an obvious and consumer fashion? I ask you, Jeffrey Jones.
Sorry, what was the... I didn't know I was going first.
Bitcoin.com cloud mining.
Oh, God, cloud mining.
Is it no good, or is it just a consumer thing to do, like adding a shop, selling t-shirts?
Cloud mining. Okay, seriously, guys. Cloud mining. I mean, Roger, cloud mining. I mean, come on. You were just dissing this a couple years ago. There is no return on investment in cloud mining. I've never heard of anybody actually turning a profit except for the damn companies that are offering the service, right? Those are the people that are actually making the money. Those are the people selling the shovels. Those are the people making the money. And so, no, this cloud mining thing is absolutely crazy. You know, maybe Roger's going broke and he needs some money. I don't know why the heck he's launching this cloud mining service on Bitcoin, but it could very well be that, because remember, they want to start an exchange. They have Bitcoin.com, and now they want to start a cloud mining service. I mean, it sounds like to me that maybe they want to be taking control of Bitcoin. Who knows? They have this agenda, you know, that they want to put Bitcoin Unlimited through. So this cloud mining thing, I do not approve. There's just no way this is a good idea. People are not going to make money. This could actually end up potentially negatively affecting Bitcoin when people all try to buy it and realize they're not making money, because cloud mining does not make money. So this is kind of a crazy thing. I know I'm going to let the rest of the panelists comment, because everybody is going to agree. This is crazy. Not a good idea.
It does seem like Bitcoin.com is going to make a lot of money off this. Maybe they should put out a public service announcement warning their people. Jimmy Song.
Yeah, so we talked earlier about how you have to trust the mining equipment manufacturer to some degree, because you don't know what the chips are doing inside. Mining is just taking that trust to idea what equipment they're running. You have no idea what you own. You own, I guess, nominally some terahashes per second or something like that. But it's hard to verify anything. So it's a little confusing to me, because you know, he put in his little ad in the tweet that he posted that 100% guaranteed uptime and you know, consistent hash rate. And my question to him was, how do you guarantee something like that? Even like Amazon Web Services, they don't guarantee 100% uptime, right? Like there's no way you could do that with miners. And how do you guarantee like consistent hash rate? Like, do you have backup? Like, you know, one goes down that are not online, like, and you know, who knows? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's figured out a different business model or whatever. But you know, I mean, I will say this though: mining is very profitable right now, right? Like the electricity cost is something like 17% of the actual mining cost, and there's certainly a lot of different you know, ways in which you can make money. So I mean, I could see this business potentially being profitable, but it just requires so much trust in the people that you're dealing with, and there's a reason there aren't that many cloud mining operations. I mean, if it is successful, I can see it becoming kind of like a REIT, right? Like a real estate investment trust or something like that. You'd need more regulation around it and some verification that they actually have the hash power that they say they have, and that they're committed to like reinvesting some of the profits to getting more miners or something. But yeah, I mean, like Jeffrey said, like there hasn't been one that's like not been a scam. So like my tendency is to say, you know what, like you got to prove yourself before I would invest.
I mean, if you're going to guarantee 100% uptime, you're definitely not going to be running Bitcoin Unlimited.
Personally, I would only go with a company that would guarantee 110% uptime. And there does seem to be a lot of trust for a libertarian enterprise. I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for giving us a thumbs up. We just broke 295 for a second there. We had 300 viewers. So I'm going to give it over to Tone Vase. Maybe you guys can give us some more thumbs up and shares, and we'll get back over that 300 mark just for Tone, who may or may not have a good connection to talk about cloud mining. Go ahead, Tone. What about Bitcoin.com cloud mining?
Can everyone hear tone? All right. It's not a connection. My internet's fine. It's my hardware, which is a bit problematic. But anyway, I will be updating my hardware when Microsoft gets its shit together. But anyway, on back to the topic. So this is insane. This is this is insane. I don't even know where to start. Okay, so let's start with Roger Ver tweets out that he's going to do cloud mining in the future. And here are our 4 plans, and this one is most popular. How the hell do you have a most popular plan that isn't yet for sale? I mean, this. I don't know if you guys saw that.
That's just marketing.
It's a mock-up.
It's just
marketing. A Photoshop mock-up.
I know. It's just like the whole thing. Just like it should tell you what bullshit this is. Okay. I don't want to. I was gonna share a screen, but like I'm scared to at the moment. A year ago, I was present when Roger Ver debated Joby Weeks of BitClub about how dumb, borderline scammy cloud mining is, and here he is 1 year later, creating a cloud mining company. Okay. Next, here's the other problem. Championing how evil Bitcoin Core is and how they are hijacked. And here is Roger Ver, who has .com and is basically responsible for the developers of Bitcoin.com, like their CTO or whatever. They're the people are on the developers to get this cloud mining up and running. So the people that are going to be responsible for this cloud mining are a combination of Bitcoin.com's developers and Bitcoin Unlimited's developers. So that already tells you that, that shit's going to be buggy as hell, right? But just look at it from another perspective. You have a person that is clearly connected chip maker in Bitmain. He owns the media. He basically controls Bitcoin Unlimited development, which he wants to become core development, cloud mining, and he's one of the biggest investors in, maybe not the biggest investor, but I know he's an investor in the most popular wallet, which I think is the worst wallet, but it's the most popular wallet because of all the media hype, blockchain.info. Can you just name a centralized version of Bitcoin Roger Ver right now that he just got involved with Bitcoin core development and not core development, but Bitcoin development, if you know what I mean, with a competing team, and mining and running cloud mining? This is insane. This is absolutely insane. It every check and balance that Bitcoin can possibly have the window. Why would a responsible developer, core developer, Bitcoin Unlimited developer, why would this person want to even be involved in mining? How is that not the biggest conflict of interest in the world? Okay. So there's just so much stupid in this, and people want it. People are dying for it. I don't understand. People are going to sign up and they're going to give them money. And but yeah, Vortex, your speculation is Roger Ver broke. It's a good question. I have no idea how much Bitcoin he has, but I always said it's not 300,000 Bitcoin. That just
it's either desperation or control. I mean, it's either desperation or wanting to control, because it's clearly a conflict of interest.
And it is true that all of the noobs want to mine Bitcoin. Everyone hears about it. They have this dream about their computer running overnight and waking up and having money be there. This is everybody's dream. So you got to figure they go to bitcoin.com. They get confused. They put $100 in, probably lose it all. Maybe they put 1,000, 10,000 in. It gets kind of unfortunate at those levels. I thought it was not I'm not crazy about it, but it did seem just like they're building out Bitcoin.com in every direction, and this is one of the directions. A preview of the future, just based upon what they've been doing, I think we have a casino coming. I think they've been talking about it. They've been working with some other companies. I wouldn't be surprised if they go full, I don't know what you want to call it, when you start running a gambling casino with Bitcoin openly and publicly in your own name. But we'll see how they do on that. Let's go to the exit question. Jimmy Song, yes or no, would you invest in Bitcoin cloud mining?
No, way too much risk. It's against the spirit of Bitcoin for me. I like to verify my stuff. This is why I, read the code. And it seems a little bit ridiculous to me that this sort of thing, I get why this would appeal to certain people. I'm just not one of those people or part of that audience. So no.
Tone Vase, trust and then verify sometime later?
Well, the answer to the question is obvious. I would go one further. If I allowed, some Bitcoin bank to hold my Bitcoin on my behalf, I would be willing to pay insurance to protect myself from that company accidentally investing my Bitcoin for my benefit to earn interest in cloud mining. Like, I would pay insurance to prevent my Bitcoin from potentially to make me more Bitcoin with cloud mining.
Now that's a solid investment. Is there any way that we could short cloud mining? That's what I'd like to see. Jeffrey Jones.
Let's see. Exit question. Would I invest in cloud mining? Well, let me think. Since every single one has been pretty much a scam so far, I'm going to have to say no.
Although I do like what you said earlier. Would I run a cloud mining company? Oh, of course, you're going to make lots of money. You're selling the shovels.
For the first couple of years, yes, for sure.
Is it incredibly ethical? Well, what's ethics? Character, friendship. We got to go to these questions. Moving on to issue 4, South Korean Bitcoin hack. Just weeks after we discussed the North Korean hacker army feeding on weak Bitcoin all over the world, South Korean Bitcoin exchange Yapazon was allegedly hacked for 37% of user funds, around 3,816 Bitcoins, more than $5 million. The company is offering debt tokens similar to Bitfinex, claiming that they'll be able to pay the users back within 2 years using fees from the exchange. Is this the new model for exchanges? Casual security followed by the creation of a debt token? Jimmy Song, your thoughts?
Well, it's probably a new model. I mean, you got to admit, it's a very easy way to socialize losses to the customer base in a somewhat fair way. I will say this is good in that they're being open about it and not being like Mt. Gox and sort of hiding the fact that they don't have Bitcoin. That said, I would never deposit my money there. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Like, the reason why you would is to get some arbitrage opportunity or anything, or something like that. Yeah, it's there's a long list of exchanges that have been hacked and gone bankrupt as a result. It's endemic through Bitcoin's history, so this is nothing new. Just be careful and don't trust anybody in Bitcoin. That's kind of like the ethos that you need to have in order to survive.
I certainly think it's a terrifying new Bitcoin, new business model. It reminds me of that South Park episode where they kept depositing their money in the bank and they're like, here's your money and it's gone. Here's your money and it's gone. Tone Vase, is this the new model for businesses going forward?
What do you mean? This is the current model. We've had this model for 9 years. This has been the model. I mean, Bitfinex, gave it a little bit of a structure. They gave it clarity as to how to deal with the of this model. And I think if any exchange is smart, they would write it into their terms of service, terms of agreement, saying that if hacked, losses will be socialized across the entire exchange, which is what Bitfinex did, which is what this company did. I mean, if that's in your terms of service, then you should have no right to complain. This is the risk that you take for using Bitcoin exchanges. I mean, I don't see how it's gonna change. I mean, it's a better asset that can be hacked. It's the way it is, right? Maybe Blockstream with their liquid box can provide a solution, but this is the world we live in. Like, it's as long as you know the terms, there shouldn't be any complaints.
And it's certainly possible for these exchanges to be hacked. But overall, I would agree with you, Tone. I don't think it's that different from the auto bailout that the government did a few years ago. They took the stock of the auto companies and they later sold them back. Is this just the same thing? Are people just bailing out their exchanges now?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know if this exchange will survive because, like, Bitfinex had a reputation. This exchange doesn't have that kind of a reputation. So we'll see. I mean, it's this should be expected. I mean, and what Jimmy was saying earlier about Gemini, now that all these clients are coming into Gemini, this is, this was Mt. Gox's problem. Mt. Gox's number of employees went from about 15 to about 75 in the span of 3 months. If you ever worked for a company or ran a company that needed to do that, it's impossible. You can't train all these people. You can't vet all these people. And now that Gemini is becoming a popular exchange, it becomes a honeypot, worthy of a hack. And that's the big one, right? That's the one you're waiting on.
Jeffrey Jones, maybe next time I deposit some Bitcoin on an exchange, they should just give me the debt tokens in advance.
Maybe just in case. You never know, because at this point, if you're the odds of your exchange getting hacked is pretty high at this point in the game. Remember, like as everybody has said, there's been a long list of exchanges that has gotten hacked over the last 8 or 9 years, and we're far from that changing. We are very early in security in Bitcoin days. I mean, we spoke about it earlier. I mean, when it comes to trusted hardware and other things, we are very early in terms of security. So we just don't know how to secure Bitcoin very well yet. We're trying. We're definitely innovating. We're definitely having all of these conversations, and now we're trying to like do these things like these debt tokens. But it's just these debt tokens are just a band-aid. It's not sustainable. It's not going to keep working every single time like it did for Bitfinex. That's not going to keep working. So what we're going to have to do is increase our security, is better our security. And so there's smart people all over the world that are working on that right now. And that's really going to be the future. There's going to be so much money that's going to be pouring into securing Bitcoin. Like it's going to be a huge industry. If you think security is big now, just wait till Bitcoin hits the planet in real mass, in mass, basically to the mainstream. So it's admirable of them to try. I mean, of course, well, what else are you going to do? What's your other choice? There's no other choice at this point. It's take your losses or try this debt token. So of course exchanges are going to try this debt token, but this is not the new normal. This is not sustainable. This is not going to last. And at this point, you just have to only trust a few different exchanges. I mean, again, like there's demand, right? There's demand for Bitcoin all over the world. So if these exchanges continue to get hacked, then somebody's going to figure out a way for them to not get hacked. I mean, there's demand is there and it's not going anywhere. So this is a problem that somebody's going to solve, but it's not going to be solved for a while.
Liquid. That's what Liquid is trying to solve. That the Liquid project from Blockstream. That is what they're trying to solve.
I did have an idea. Maybe they could just give the debt tokens to the hackers, bait and switch. Just here you go. Thanks so much. Let's move on to the exit question. Jimmy Song, is this any way to run a business? Is there a difference between Bitcoin exchanges and dark market drug websites?
Oh, good question. But before we go on, I want to just say something about like Gemini and why I chose them in particular. I know we all crap on like New York Department of Financial Services or whatever for making all these places, apply for a bit license and stuff. But I will say that knowing that, what my company does for NYDFS, part of the requirement is that you put a bunch of money in escrow, including Bitcoin. And if you do get hacked, that's always there to make your customers complete. So, I mean, there is like in this way, regulation can actually have some usefulness for these sort of markets. Anyway, to answer your question,
that sounds like a good idea for the dark markets too. You could put a bunch of Bitcoins in escrow, and you could say that it's on reserve, and then maybe you have the private key somewhere else, and then the exit scam happens anyway. But yeah, I think they should add that to the stack for these private markets.
Yeah, maybe. All right. So as far as is this any way to run a business, I gotta say it's a lot better than Butterfly Labs or Mt. Gox, right? And you got to give them that. The industry is at least evolving. It's at least a lot better than it was 3 or 4 years ago. At some point, I kind of expect like these companies to take another idea from an earlier point to do an ICO. And then cover their losses by having like a secondary ICO token offering and getting more money, right? Like I can imagine something like that. And a lot of companies sort of do these like debt issues or something like that. And I could see that sort of becoming a more common thing. As far as darknet websites, I mean, yeah, these companies in darknet, they're similar in the sense that you basically have to trust somebody, right? Like you have to trust a third party. But it's not like darknet websites in that these public companies have regulators, and that means that they have to answer to them in some way, or they're going to go to jail. Of course, the darknet people will also go to jail, but for entirely different reasons, probably not being regulated enough or something like that. But anyway, yeah, I want to point out that we've come a long way, right, in a few years as far as how bad a Bitcoin company can be. You can crap on all these other Bitcoin companies and how they're not doing things right, but guys, we've come a long way. We've come a long way, and we should give ourselves some credit as a community in sussing out a lot of these like really terrible companies and making sure that they've gone bankrupt instead of bailing them out. So in that way, good job, Bitcoin.
They always said that the service at Sheep Marketplace was fantastic, right up until the last weekend when they ran off with all the money. Tone phase.
Yeah, they're exactly the same. I mean, there's really no difference. Here's the only potential difference between like an exchange and a darknet market. In an exchange, the exchanges, but in some of the exchanges, the people running the exchange can be visible and public and promote the exchange, right? So take on some responsibility, right? So there are exchanges, even some of the exchanges that I like and use, like One Broker and some of the other ones like BTCE, their owners are private. So yeah, this is exactly the same as a darknet market. But in a darknet market, the people in charge of the exchange, they have to remain anonymous for their safety, legal safety. In an exchange, they only have to remain anonymous for their safety if they're like, I don't know, maybe in Russia or in some other place that they don't want to, legally. So the exchange operators have an option. Do they want to be public people in order to get more business? Or do they stay anonymous and slowly grow the business through reputation? Like, for example, Gemini is the Winklevoss twins. They are very, very public. It would be very difficult for them to exit scam and run away. Very, very difficult. And it's the complete opposite for something like BTCE, who can do it, and they're always been anonymous. So that's pretty much the only difference. But as far as, so the more the less likely that they would exit scam, but it doesn't matter, right? I mean, look at Mt. Gox, and Karpeles was a very public person, and he probably didn't exit scam, and this is why, he can barely afford a lawyer for his own defense because he's broke, right? So I can't even say which one is smarter, right? Is it smarter to run an anonymous Bitcoin exchange so that if half the Bitcoin got hacked, you have the option of running away with the other half, like Big Vern did, and he was, in between the two. He was somewhat public, but he wasn't public enough that he was able to just run away with the rest of the money. Because if you're too public, you remove that option off the table. But you are able to people on board like Gemini is doing right now. This is a decision for the C-level managers because everyone's getting hacked. Everyone's been hacked. So it's and it's hard to say which one is better, but yeah, they're almost the same.
The Winklevi are also incredibly tall, and there's two of them, so they would stand out in a crowd. The BTC-E exit scam has been in the works for years, and I think you're spoiling a little of it, Tone, when you say there will be a hack. So let's all hold on to our hats for that one. That's still in the future to come. Jeffrey Jones, your thoughts on Bitcoin exchanges and their comparison to drug markets?
Well, it's I don't know if I'd compare them to drug markets, but I mean, they definitely help facilitate drug markets. That's for sure. As does these cryptocurrencies, and of course the most private cryptocurrencies like Monero and things like that. So and again, as everybody knows at this point, this is just part of the circular economy. These are the things. These are the services that need to be serviced first. These are the people that need to be serviced first. So these are the ones that are going to take advantage of Bitcoin first. Bitcoin right now is not for the whole world. It's not ready yet for the whole world, but it will be soon. And for right now, this is what people are using it for. And if you can't buy drugs with Bitcoin, then I don't even want to own any Bitcoin. So that's pretty much my thoughts on that.
It's also worth reminding people, like Andreas says, when the internet started around 1992 and you'd go on there, they'd get angry at you. They'd say you're going to hang out with a gang of thieves and it's a den of drugs and all these horrible stuff about the internet. And you saw how that kind of middled out, and Bitcoin will be the same. Let's move on to a story of the week or prediction. Jimmy Song, are you ready with a story of the week or a prediction?
Sure. I think my story of the week is what's happening at Bitfinex, right? Like, why are they so much higher than everybody else? Is Tether insolvent? They dropped below 90 cents at one point. Are they insolvent? What's going on here? I mean, there are some stories about how they have a complex banking relationship that they're not able to establish properly. But I mean, like, weird this week that there were all these all-time highs on Bitcoin. Nobody like made any memes or anything, right? Like, it was just sort of, oh, well, this is kind of weird. I don't really understand what's going on. And it does remind a lot of people of what happened to Mt. Gox right before they crashed, right? Like they were up. There was a spread of $100 between Mt. Gox and everybody else. So, I think that's scaring some people from sort of like proclaiming that this is a new high that's going to be sustainable. That said, I don't know what's going on over there. I would love to know more, and maybe if they can, put out some sort of like proof of reserve audit or something like that. I think that would, help a lot of customers feel better, and that would certainly be better for the currency going forward. But yeah, that's my story of the week.
Well, breaking up is hard to do, and it can be even doubly hard when you're breaking up with a bank. But I was told that Tether will always be $1. Tone Vay's story of the week or prediction. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to briefly comment on Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy, so we talked about the story on this show, and I've talked about the story a bunch of times on my show. Just to clear up a couple of things real quick. What happened was it's hard for them to show proof of reserves because they would expose their banking relationships, and neither Tether nor Bitfinex want to do that. And they actually, I believe, they share some of the same banks. So it's a very sensitive thing. Like a lot of the companies, you ask them, hey, who's your Bitcoin company banking with? And they don't want to tell you because they don't want to, sever that relationship. So that makes it a little bit difficult to do. And the problem basically stems from the fact that these companies bank in Taiwan. In order to move money around, the Taiwanese banks were sending wires, and these wires go through American companies because through American banks in order to get to other American companies. And Wells Fargo was one of the banks in the middle, and they kind of, started holding up a lot of these wires so that the Taiwanese banks said, well, we can't have money just, so let's we're gonna hold off on these things, and that's why it was hard to move money around, and people panicked. And this is why it's also difficult to redeem your Tether 1-for-1, and people are accepting 92 cents on the dollar for Tether, but the spread is coming down. It got as high as like 9% between Bitfinex and Stamp, and now it's back down to 5%. Maybe they're working it out with some of the US banks to allow them to move the money around. So I personally believe that these institutions are solvent, but the problem is, US banks moving the money around. So my, I guess, story of the week is another major bank leaving R3. I'm afraid to share my screen just again, like having like minor issues. And is going to be Bitcoin price. I'm very happy that the spread is evening out between Bitfinex and Stamp. I think that spread going to within 1% is going to be very, very important for Bitcoin going forward. I think it would bring a lot more confidence, and there'll be a clarity on the price of Bitcoin. I don't believe Bitcoin is at an all-time high yet, because for me, an all-time high needs to be an all-time high on all USD trading exchanges. And unfortunately, Bitstamp missed it by $3. They needed to break 1350, and they only made it to 1347. But they're now back to 1330. So by the time I wake up tomorrow morning, I fully expect to wake up to a new all-time high across all US exchanges.
Where's my $3? Jeffrey Jones, you have a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, excellent job, guys. Like that was some great stories of the week. There was a lot of information in there. That was great. I guess just for me, I'm just still so stoked on Litecoin getting SegWit. Like that's just, I'm so excited. Because after this comes Lightning Network, and then after this comes more probability of SegWit on Bitcoin. And so I'm just really excited about this. This is just amazing. Obviously, it pumped the price, and now it's coming back down, and it has to correct, of course. But it's just so great to see SegWit, everybody come together in Litecoin and get this activated. So it's really great. I can't wait to see what they're going to do next.
Excellent stuff. And my story of the week is that I'm getting closer to beating Zelda. I'm rounding the corner on the 3rd of the Divine Beast. I've got the 4th one on my map. Ganon is running scared. I've beaten about 55 shrines. I'm not going to be half finishing the game like some people. Jackson Palmer. But I'm still in it, and I'm in it to win it. I'll try to do some more live Zelda broadcasting soon, maybe when I get closer to the end. Show you all the cool new stuff I got. It's been a great game, super fun, thoughtful, big world to explore. I enjoy the Switch hardware. It's fun. It clicks in and out, has little side things. It's a fun thing. So I'll give that a try if you haven't yet, if you're into video games. Otherwise, we're running out of time. Thanks so much for everyone for sharing and thumbs up and leaving us a comment. And I'm going to go read the chat and see what you guys all said, at least as far back as Google let me scroll up. But we're out of time. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.